Welcome to Mike's Retro Curiosities, where we explore the wonderful world of retro games. Today we're taking a look at F-Zero GX for the Nintendo GameCube. F-Zero GX was released in 2003 and created by Sega Amusement Visions. This was pretty much the exact same team that created the Super Monkey Ball series and eventually Yakuza. As the name somewhat implies, Sega Amusement Vision was primarily a studio that created arcade games. And in fact, this game was created in tandem with an arcade machine called F-Zero AX. That game was made for the Triforce arcade system board, which was basically a collaboration between Sega, Nintendo, and Namco to create arcade hardware. It was actually possible to transfer data between F-Zero GX and its arcade cousin through the use of a memory card. Doing so allows the player to access several unlockables. The arcade game is fairly uncommon, though I have thankfully had the pleasure of playing it. It utilizes a fairly heavy-duty sit-down unit, and it was quite fun. It was eventually discovered that the disc for F-Zero GX actually contains an unfinished port of the arcade game. Apparently there were some technical hurdles that prevented it from being completed, and now it's only accessible through hacking the game, though all of the tracks are unlockable within the base game, so at least there's that. F-Zero GX would end up being kind of the last major console entry in the F-Zero franchise. There were a few other games released after it, those being F-Zero GP Legend and F-Zero Climax for the Game Boy Advance, plus F-Zero 99 much later. But those games were smaller and were largely throwbacks to the original F-Zero on the Super Nintendo, so you could say that this was kind of the last big AAA release in the series. And it definitely went out on a high note. Gameplay is tried and true F-Zero, definitely following up on the last major series entry, F-Zero X on the Nintendo 64, but much more refined. That means fast-paced futuristic racing on just insane race courses. The game delivers an incredible sense of speed, with players often moving at thousands of kilometers per hour. It really gets your adrenaline pumping as you're trying to weave in between other racers while trying desperately not to fall off the edge of the course or take too much damage. There's also a really cool risk-reward system where boosting actually drains your health. This game also introduced a new spin attack move that you can use to attack other racers. With such extreme speed, good controls are a necessity, and luckily this game controls like a dream. It also helps that this game maintains a rock-solid 60 FPS, a rare feat during the GameCube era. Graphics in general are really quite excellent and still hold up even today. The music is great too, featuring a high-speed rock and roll soundtrack that really gets you pumped. There are 26 tracks in total, with 15 being available at the start. These tracks are extremely well designed and varied, with all manner of ridiculous tubes, jumps, loops, and more. This game introduces several new modes to the series. First is the ability to create custom hovercrafts, which you can trick out with unlockable parts. There's also a full story mode with CGI cutscenes and everything. To progress in the story, players will have to complete a series of missions, which each have their own goal. They're all obviously based around the idea of racing, but they can be quite varied. For example, there's one mission that was obviously inspired by the movie Speed, wherein you have to constantly maintain a certain speed, or else an explosive on your craft will kill you. I have to admit, I've never made it very far in the story mode, and that's because this game is really freaking hard. F-Zero GX requires extreme precision and pretty much demands that you go through each course multiple times until you memorize them. Now, granted, you can play the normal races at a lower difficulty, but if you want to unlock stuff or make progress in the story mode, then yeah, you're going to need to really put some work in. But in spite of its high difficulty, it's never unfair and presents a very fun challenge. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that this game's a masterpiece of the racing genre and easily the best F-Zero game. It's highly polished, high-speed, adrenaline-pumping action, and I can't get enough of it. The game can also, of course, be played with up to 4 players, which only adds to the fun. So yeah, I definitely recommend it to anyone who enjoys a good racer. In fact, this game might actually be a little bit too good. Bear with me for a second. I kind of have this theory that the reason why there's been no other major F-Zero game is that this game basically left no room for improvement. It is F-Zero fully realized and perfected. If Nintendo made a sequel to F-Zero GX, unless they completely changed the gameplay, all it would end up being is sort of a glorified track pack. I mean, I guess they could go the Burnout Paradise route and make the next game open world, but in terms of this style of track-based F-Zero game, F-Zero GX is pretty much the final word. In terms of different ways to play this game, for the longest time, F-Zero GX was pretty much trapped on the GameCube. But finally, Nintendo has re-released this game just last year for the Nintendo Switch 2 as a part of the Switch Online service. It took them long enough, but that'll be it for today. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This video is sponsored by M&M Games, and I will see you guys next time.